All right, let's dive in. We're about to explore a world that's totally invisible, but it's absolutely essential to our survival. I'm talking about microbes. And over the next few minutes, you're going to see why they're basically our planet's most powerful, unseen allies.
Okay, so when I say the word microbe, be honest, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably stuff like sickness, disease, germs, right? I mean, we're told our whole lives to wash them away. And look, it's true, some of them are bad news, but that is such a tiny, tiny part of the whole picture.
So, what if I told you they're also our planet's greatest chefs, doctors, and even engineers? That's what we're going to do here. We're going to flip that script completely. We're going to look at the other side, the huge majority of microbes that aren't just harmless, they're actually working for us, and in ways that are pretty mind-blowing.
All right, first section, more than just germs. It's time to meet some of the real unsung heroes of the biological world.
And when I say they're everywhere, I really mean everywhere. We're not just talking about soil or water or inside our own bodies. No, these guys thrive in places where pretty much nothing else can survive. I mean, think about it. Thermal geysers hitting 100 degrees Celsius. That's literally boiling. Or think about deep underlayers and layers of snow. Their resilience is just absolutely astounding.
Okay, so from the super extreme to the totally mundane. You don't actually need a volcano to find these helpful microbes. You just need to walk into your kitchen. Let's take a look at how they're basically our own personal chefs.
Take making curd, for example. It's a perfect case study. That little spoonful of curd you add to the milk, that's basically an inoculation of millions of lactic acid bacteria. They immediately get to work, fermenting the milk, producing these acids that, poof, transform it into curd. And here's the really cool part. They don't just change the texture, they actually boost the nutritional value by jacking up the vitamin B12 content. How amazing is that?
And you know that puffy, airy look you get in bread dough or in dosa batter? Well, you can thank microbes for that. That's all because of the CO2 gas that gets released by these fermenting microbes. For bread, the superstar is, of course, baker's yeast. You might know it as Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and it works tirelessly to give us that perfect, delicious texture.
And then, of course, there's cheese. What's so wild about cheese is how a specific microbe creates a specific cheese. Take Swiss, for instance. Those big holes, that's all CO2 being produced by one particular bacterium. Then you have something like Roquefort. That sharp, distinct flavor comes from a totally different type of fungus that's used to ripen it. So you see, different microbe, completely different cheese. It's incredible.
Okay, so we've seen the kitchen. Now let's scale things up a bit, because microbes aren't just little household helpers. They are industrial powerhouses. They're working in massive factories and helping to create some of our most important life-saving medicines.
I mean, people have been using yeast to make alcoholic drinks for thousands of years. It's the exact same yeast from our bread, just fermenting sugars to produce ethanol. So what's the real difference between, say, wine and whiskey? It all comes down to distillation. Drinks like whiskey, brandy, and rum, they're distilled. All that means is the fermented broth is concentrated to get a higher alcohol content. But the hard work, that's still done by our microbial friend.
Now for what might be one of the single most important discoveries of the 20th century, antibiotics. And you know what? It started completely by accident. A scientist named Alexander Fleming noticed that on one of his lab plates, this little bit of mold was growing. And right around that mold, the nasty bacteria, they just couldn't grow. It was a total chance discovery that would literally change the course of modern medicine.
So Fleming, he identified this mold, Penicillium notatum, and he named the chemical it produced penicillin. But for years it was just this little lab curiosity. It actually took two other scientists, Chain and Flory, to really unlock its full potential. They established it as a super effective antibiotic right in the middle of World War II, where it was used to save countless wounded soldiers. The impact was so huge that all three of them shared the Nobel Prize in 1945. What a story.
And that microbial pharmacy is still very much open for business. Today, they give us all sorts of incredible molecules. We get clot busters from bacteria that can literally stop a heart attack. We get immunosuppressants from fungi that make organ transplants even possible. And we get statins from yeast that millions of people rely on to lower their cholesterol. Just amazing. All right, next up, nature's cleanup crew. So beyond our kitchens and our pharmacies, microbes perform another absolutely critical service, and this one is on a massive scale, cleaning up our wastewater.
Okay, before we get into the how, we need to wrap our heads around this one concept. Biochemical oxygen demand, or BOD. Really, it's just a way to measure water pollution. It tells you how much oxygen microbes would need to break down all the organic gunk in the water. So here's the takeaway. A high BOD means you've got really polluted water. Simple as that.
So how in the world do sewage treatment plants clean millions and millions of gallons of water every day? Well, they let microbes do all the heavy lifting. First, the big physical stuff is filtered out. Then, the water flows into these huge aeration tanks where aerobic microbes are given everything they need to thrive, and they just feast on the organic waste. This biological step is what slashes the BOD. And get this, even the leftover sludge is then digested by other anaerobic bacteria, which produces useful biogas as a byproduct. It's an incredibly efficient system.
And this chart right here really shows you just how well it works. Look at that bar on the far left. That's untreated sewage with a sky-high BOD. But after our microbial friends get to work, the level just plummets. It's almost as clean as natural river water. To this day, we haven't invented any technology that can compete with the efficiency of this totally natural, sustainable process.
Okay, for our last section, let's head out to the farm. As it turns out, microbes are also absolutely essential partners in agriculture, giving us natural, sustainable ways to grow our food.
You know, so often in farming, the go-to solution for pests is to just spray chemical pesticides. But these can be pretty toxic, and they can pollute the soil and water. The alternative is something called biocontrol, basically using living things to manage pests. And the goal isn't to just eradicate everything, it's to bring back a more natural, healthy balance.
And microbes are absolute superstars here. For example, there's a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT for short. You can buy it as these dried spores. You spray it on plants, and when it's eaten by certain insect larvae, like butterfly caterpillars, it kills them. But it leaves other insects completely unharmed. It's like having a highly targeted microscopic police force for your crops.
And it's not just pest control. Microbes also act as nature's own fertilizers. So instead of dumping chemicals on the soil, we can use these organisms that enrich it naturally. You have bacteria like rhizobium that literally pull nitrogen out of the air and make it available for plants. You have fungi that create this huge underground network to help plants soak up key nutrients like phosphorus. It's just a beautiful, self-sustaining system.
So let's just step back and look at this incredible microscopic workforce. We've got microbes as our chefs, our pharmacists, our sanitation workers, and our farmers. I mean, from life-saving medicines to cleaning up the planet, they are just fundamentally vital to our well-being.
It's so clear that we depend on this invisible world way more than most of us ever think about. They are the foundation of our ecosystems and, honestly, a huge key to our future. And that just makes you wonder, right? If they're already doing all of this for us, what other secrets is this microscopic world still hiding?